time for Overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
Oh, my goodness. Touchdown.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Welcome into the Wednesday edition of Overtime. I'm your host, as always, Bert Rameen. You can track me down anytime on Twitter, before, during, or after the program at Bert ESPN. We're ready to roll with the Hump Day edition of the show. Minnesota Timberwolves are in trouble. Are they done? No, they're not, but they certainly have a lot of odds stacked against them for Game 6 on their home floor. Can't wait to see how that shakes out in just a few nights. But last night, another disappointing performance for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Got dinged up in the process, and everyone seemed to be a little off kilter last night for Minnesota. I had to say, at the end of the first half, I thought Minnesota played pretty darn tough, despite a lot of things not going their way. Karl-Anthony Towns hitting the deck, a lot of missed open shots, missed transition buckets as well, and chippy chop shots and fouls both ways yesterday for Minnesota and Denver. Ultimately, Denver gets the win in game number 5, 112-97. Denver now leads the series in come from behind fashion, 3-2, and they're the first team in that series to win on their home floor. There's a tremendous amount to break down and get to, not just from the NBA, but the WNBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NHL today, as we crank it open and get it rumbling here today on this Wednesday, May 15th edition of Overtime. Still to come, we're about 10 minutes away from having a pair of very special guests in the studio join us. Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey will join us, as well as Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis. We'll be talking some sports. We'll be talking some transition of season, some hiring, everything going on that you need to know in Sioux Falls Public Emergency Response, Sioux Falls Fire, and more. We'll talk all sorts of things, run the gamut of topics today with Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey and Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis here in about 10 to 15 minutes on this Wednesday edition of the show. Later on in hour number 1, we'll give you the latest out of the National Football League, the schedule release. We've got a lot of confirmation. We got a lot of fake news. We got a good blend of both, and a lot of bad guesses, good guesses, and otherwise at every NFL team schedule. It'll become official coming up at tonight with the NFL schedule release right around 7 o'clock Central Time. And I'm sure some clever, cool videos will be breaking down. The LA Chargers, always among the best teams at getting their schedule out there. We'll see how many games the Chargers win this year, but certainly a lot of eyes and ears on the Minnesota Vikings, the Packers, the Broncos, the Chiefs, and all of our area teams in regards to who they play and when. For some fans, it's a big old nothing burger. For me, it only builds the excitement and the game of which you get to guess and pick and choose which games your team will play well in, what kind of streak they can assemble, and everyone's got gripes with the schedule in terms of rest, overseas, international travel, and more. Minnesota Vikings are one of the teams that'll have to battle the international travel this year. They're going to be out in London matching up with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. That is one of the officially announced games already, before the schedule release officially hits tonight in the National Football League. Also in hour number 1, NBA recap from last night, preview for tonight. Timberwolves are in trouble, a look at the odds, the latest on Karl-Anthony Towns, and more at the end of hour number 1. Hour number 2, highlights and headlines and more. Your opportunity to win big, first opportunity of the week to do so. You can win an OPH gift card and the Identity Crisis, brought to you by the Original Pancake House. As always, if you're tuning in off the jump, you get a courtesy clue. Former NFL player. This player, very notable, but never went to a Pro Bowl in his career. It's not a nobody. It's somebody that you should absolutely know if you were at all engaged in the NFL in the 90s, in the 2000s. Former NFL player is our clue for the Identity Crisis around 12:20. Kat Clark of Sioux Falls Golf will hop on the show around 12:30, provide a wide-ranging update on everything going on there in the 605 Sioux Falls Golf, what's ahead, the events, everything that's changing this year, and We'll also talk PGA Championship with Kat Clark, who's the favorite, who are some underrated players, and can Rory McIlroy finally win another major, his last one, 2014, looking to get another one. It would be his third ever PGA Championship victory over the weekend. Coming off a win down in Charlotte, can he continue it? He's got the second best odds to do just that, according to This Morning at DraftKings Sportsbook. Lastly on the show, the good, the bad, and the ugly hits around 12:45 to send you home for the day. NHL Finals from yesterday, Boston was up against the wall, and they responded in a big way. 2-1 road win to prolong the series against the Panthers.
Right circle, drops, Coyle, back into the slot, McAvoy shoots, he scores! Charlie McAvoy sizzles it home, his first in the playoffs. Bruins 2, Panthers 1.
That was an important one in the win, 2-1 yesterday. Final score there, Florida leads the series 3-2. That audio 98.5 The Sports Hub. Elsewhere north of the border, Vancouver and Edmonton tussling in Game 4. This one right back to even.
45 seconds to go. We're tied at 2. Draisaitl behind the Vancouver net. Send it out in front. Bouchard a shot. Score! 3-2 Edmonton. 38 seconds to play.
That was the game winner, heard on 630 CHED. Tonight in the NHL, just one game going on. Colorado Avalanche, it's win or go home for the season down in Dallas. 7 o'clock puck drop on ESPN. Stars lead that series 3-1. NBA Final from last night. In the first game of the night, New York and Indiana, it was a dominant performance for Jalen Brunson. We've seen that throughout the postseason. Rest of the team comes to play. They respond physically, mentally, and beyond. Knicks dominate the Pacers last night at MSG.
Fouls against Siakam, inbound, Brunson gets it back, reverse layup, counted and the foul. How did he get that one to go?
He released that ball when he was 1 inch from the floor, just landing flat on his back, and here come the chants, MVP.
Another 40-plus point performance in the postseason for Jalen Brunson. He says this one was big.
It was big time, and they played really well back in Indiana, put us on our heels, and just we needed to respond. And so just doing what we do and sticking to our values, our core principles, and just doing the things that we do that help us be successful.
Jalen Brunson finished 44 points, 7 assists. New York now takes that commanding 3-2 series lead back on the road for Game 6 against Indiana just a couple nights from now. Minnesota and Denver collided out from Mile High yesterday. This one, a very strong defensive game. A lot of ugly offense mixed in there, including some chippiness, some injuries. This game had everything, including Nikola Jokic, who always shows up for Denver.
4 on the shot clock. Top of the key, Jokic. Jokic, 3. Yeah! Denver leads at 106-92.
That was one of the finishing touches last night on a Game 5 victory for the Nuggets, 112-97. Michael Malone, the coach of Denver, says it wasn't just Jokic that stepped up.
I think it wasn't just Nikola, to be honest, Sam. I thought, it was the entire team. Obviously, they had come in here. Game 1 was close, 3 to go. It's the 3-point game. And obviously, we know what happened in Game 2.
We know what happened in Game 2, indeed. Minnesota took a commanding lead in that series, 2-0 on the road, both victories there. They lose both games over the weekend, Friday and Sunday, and then game number 5 as well. Minnesota up against it as it shifts back home and looking to rekindle some magic in which they've lost in recent memory on their home floor. Minnesota up against it now, down 3-2 in that series. Now moving forward, I know people are going to say that aren't Timberwolves fans, oh, come on, grow up. That's a bad excuse. Don't be a sore loser. But I'm all aboard the train of what Evan Cohen said this morning on Unsportsmanlike, that one decision in particular changed that series monumentally.
The fact that the NBA did not suspend Jamal Murray for Game 3 of this series after throwing the heating pad onto the court may be the turning point moment of the entire NBA season. That was in between Games 2 and 3 where the Nuggets were down 2-0 and they had more time off. They had an extra day than normal in that, and they also had no suspension, just a fine for Jamal Murray. So he had a chance to get healthy. They had a chance to regroup. He didn't get suspended. He plays in Game 3. They win Games 3 and 4.
Hard to argue that, and I know it sounds like a loser mentality take, but it's really hard to argue the actions put out there by Murray. The money sign gesture was a fine. The throwing of the towel could have been a fine and/or a suspension. The throwing of the heating pad on the floor during play, no matter where it was directed, should have been a suspension. But again, from the NBA's perspective, is it better to suspend somebody that's one of the biggest players, biggest faces in a particular series that has the chance to go the distance to 7 games? I understand it from a business perspective of the NBA. Not saying that was the only reason, but man, did that feel like a shocking decision to anyone else on that day? I know it did, especially you Minnesota Timberwolves fans and faithful. But man, did that not change the series, change the overall scope of things. And now it feels like Denver has figured out the recipe to defend Anthony Edwards, to shut down Rudy Gobert, to attack Gobert in the paint with Jokic. And that has been a one-sided affair more often than not lately. I like Denver to go ahead and close it out. I hate to say that, but I really feel like things have taken a big-time shift. Karl Anthony Towns a little dinged up. Give me Denver in 6 now, and I know I flip-flopped back and forth, and I flip-flopped right back to Denver. But man, do they look like the better team, the healthier team, the more finesse team moving down the stretch. And there was some ugly play last night for both squads, but man, oh man, that series has taken a not expected shift in the worst way possible from a Minnesota perspective. Moving forward with more NBA talk now. Brian Windhorst talking, of course, we're talking about Nikola Jokic and Denver winning the series. Why not talk about them winning it all? Here's what Windy had to say about what another title would do for the resume of the MVP.
He's got 3 MVPs now. If he wins a second title and he wins the second finals MVP, which I don't see how they win the title. He'll be the MVP if they win. We're talking single-digit hand, maybe 6 guys who have 3 MVPs, 2 championships, and 2 finals MVPs. Seriously, we're talking like Jordan, Magic, Kareem, LeBron. That's it. He's there. His toes are on that line. I don't think he needs to win one more to prove anything. He's a 3-time MVP, but he's on the verge of announcing himself as one of the most top 10 decorated players of all time.
Well said there from Wendy. And again, back to the quarterback debate in the NFL. We talk about greats in the NBA. You got to win multiple titles, and Jokic could do that this year or beyond. Certainly has the window open there in Denver. Rock solid coach. Role players are there. The depth is there. And the young youth there on the team is also pretty darn strong for Denver. But for the quarterback debate, the same thing applies. You can win 1 Super Bowl. You can win a couple MVPs, or you can win a couple MVPs and no Super Bowls. And I don't know if you're in that conversation of greatest of all time or generational talent. You got to win multiple. Just see the difference between Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is better and has been better in everything, every statistical category than Eli Manning. Win percentage, completion percentage, yards per game, rushing yards, rushing touchdown, passing, or whatever you want to do. Aaron Rodgers is an absolute better football player than Eli Manning. Now, nobody's saying that Manning is better, but when it comes to Hall of Fame, telling the story of the league, everything in there, Eli's going to get in the Hall of Fame. Rodgers is going to get in the Hall of Fame, but again, 2 Super Bowls for Eli. Without those, I don't know if he sniffs the Hall of Fame. Look up his stats. They are not better than Phillip Rivers. They are not better than Drew Brees, and they are not too much different than your mediocre quarterbacks that had long, tenured careers in the National Football League. Moving forward now to Major League Baseball. Cubbies again with an ugly performance. They get blanked again in Atlanta last night, 7-0.
2-0 pitch, and Olsen nails one high in the air, deep right center field, and is gone! 3-run home run, and a wrecking ball into the bullpen for Matt Olsen. It's 7-0 Braves here in the 4th.
A little bit of a tough stretch for the Chicago Cubs. 7-0 the final, 24-19 the new record for the Cubbies. White Sox split a doubleheader yesterday with the Nationals, losing in Game 1 6-3, winning Game 2 4-0 with the win and the loss. New record for Chicago, 13-30 on the season. Elsewhere, Miami won in Detroit in extras 1-0. Yankees beat up on the Twins 5-1 at Target Field. Chris Paddock takes the loss, just his second of the season, and Minnesota's new record 24-17. Other finals, Milwaukee over Pittsburgh, Cleveland over Texas. St. Louis wins in L.A. over the Angels 7-6, and the Rockies get another win 6-3 in San Diego. New record for Colorado, 14-28. Today and tonight in Major League Baseball, Marlins at Tigers gets going in an hour. 12:10 the start time. Pirates at Brewers, Nationals at White Sox. Rockies visit the Padres again at 3:10. Other matchups matchups, Royals at Mariners, Cubs at Braves, Guardians at Rangers, Cardinals visit the L.A. Angels once again, Yankees at Twins, Game 2 of that series, 6 o'clock pregame, 6:40 the start time, right here on ESPN Sioux Falls. If you want to watch the game, you got a good shot at catching it tonight on Prime Video, 6:40, the official start time. Wrapping up your scorecard now, Caitlin Clark turned it over quite a bit in her first WNBA contest, but did lead her team with 20 points in a season-opening loss at the hands of the Connecticut Sun. That final last night, 92-71. Minnesota Lynx get a win to start their season in Seattle, 83-70. And Becky Hammon and the Las Vegas Aces notch an 89-80 season-opening win over Phoenix. Tonight in the WNBA, Sky at Wings, 7 o'clock. Dream at Sparks is a 9 o'clock start time. We got a couple in-studio guests waiting outside the door right now, and we're going to come back and chat with Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey and Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis. Sports and everything you need to know, the latest from the fire department, including the transition of seasons. There's going to be a lot more people out and about, a lot more bonfires, a lot more grills fired up this time of year. We're going to go through everything you need to know about the transition of season, safety as we enter the spring, the warm season, the summer before too long. Can't wait for this chat coming up next. Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey and Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis in studio next on this Wednesday edition of Overtime.
It's so convenient. Sports on the go. Download the free app now. This is ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Off and running on this Wednesday, May 15th edition of Overtime. I'm Bert Ramin, your host here, and we've got a couple great guests joining us now in the studio. It's always great to connect with our local emergency response crews. Fire Chief Matt McAreavey is in, as well as Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis, who's in here for the first time. It's great to have you both. First and foremost, let's talk with the Fire Chief. Welcome back, my friend. It's good to see you again, and there's a lot happening with the Minnesota Vikings since we last had you.
There is. It's been an exciting offseason. Really excited about the draft class. JJ to JJ is going to be the theme this year.
So how are you feeling about it? Because you guys had a ton of options. You could have got Drake May. You could have traded for Justin Herbert. I don't think that was going to happen.
Yep.
But you also could have brought Kirk back and so many different other things. How do you feel about J.J. McCarthy and what stands out about him through the first couple weeks as a Minnesota Viking?
Good. He obviously looks like a pretty stable, constant performer. So something that we'd like to get is some consistency in that field, right? So something that we can grow into, get some consistency, and then start to build some more team around him again.
All right, so it's going to be a fun season for the Minnesota Vikings. Might not be a crazy winning season, but these things take time for Minnesota, so it's exciting. When it comes to the fire department, what's been new? What's been happening for you guys as you get into this warm weather season? The grills are out, the bonfires are going, the kids are about to be back home a lot more. What's all going on with the fire department?
The summer is certainly a busy season for us. We're excited. We just graduated our first class of firefighters out of our new public safety campus. So 16 firefighters got to experience that new $55 million facility, and everybody that we bring out there is just blown away. So it really is a testament to the commitment from the city. So they got to learn and grow there. It's interesting for me. I've been on the department 22 years now to look at what we were able to experience for training and now what they are able to. They hit the ground Monday running. Already a couple of them had a big, we saw in the news that we had a unfortunate accident on the interstate with the rollover of that cement truck. A bunch of them were able to respond there. So certainly something that'll make a memory for them. But they hit the ground running. Yeah, it's busy, like I say, it's grilling season. People are outside. People are doing lots of things. Some of them they're supposed to be doing, some of them not. But, so we're there to respond no matter what happens.
And I'm excited to ask you a lot about grill season and those other things, but I got one other question because you brought it up. Fire Academy training, when you got your start, tell me honestly, because everyone says, back in my day, it was harder. Is it easier or harder now than it used to be?
The level of education and training and certification that they get now, bar none, is far above. So I had an 8-week cadet academy. They taught us how to do the basics, and now they come out of there after 18 weeks. They have their EMT basic. They're ready to perform at that level, doing firefighter, car seat technician, all of these things. So they truly are ready to serve the community day one when they hit the floor.
Well, so certainly it's a big opportunity. Lastly, is before we dive over into the communications side with Tim Schleis, the Metro Communications Supervisor here, Wednesday edition of Overtime. Let's talk a little bit about that Fire Academy. How does somebody get involved or get started with the dream of becoming a fireman here in Sioux Falls?
Absolutely. You know, we really impress upon our people to recruit from within and go out and engage with people out in the community, because we understand kind of what makes a good first responder. And quite honestly, it isn't that background in public safety. It's just wanting to serve your community. And there's just a multitude of ways that we can do it. So we encourage our firefighters and all of our responders, all of our city employees, go out and encourage. 23 years ago, I'd always admired the fire profession, but I'd never really thought about getting into it. I didn't have any experience in the fire service. Somebody I was working with said, "Hey, I think you might be a good firefighter. Would you ever think about applying?" And kind of the rest is history. So yeah, we encourage people that just have a dedication to serve their community. There's a multitude of ways that they can do that. I had the opportunity to speak to to my high school alma mater, to the classes there, and really shared with them that even within the city of Sioux Falls, virtually any profession that you want to serve in, if you want to serve your community, whether it's an accountant, lawyer, doctor, snowplow driver, like just about anything except for a pilot at this point, you can serve, and it gives you that purpose and that calling. So we encourage people that, you have your career and you're looking for something more, maybe to serve and give back to your community. City of Sioux Falls has a multitude of ways. Presently until the 22nd, the application period is open on siouxfalls.gov. You can apply to be a Sioux Falls firefighter, and that class will start in January of 2025. We're looking to bring on 10 to 12 individuals at that time.
Obviously, a ton to look forward to. Great site there, and all sorts of employment opportunities and everything you need to know, really, to stay informed in the Sioux Empire, siouxfalls.gov. Now we'll talk to Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis, who's on this other microphone here to my left. Tim, you're a Vikings guy. You're a Twins guy. You said you're a Hawkeye fan. How you feeling? Let's talk about Twins first. How you feeling about their season? Pretty good lately.
Yeah, it's definitely started off pretty rough, but I'll take a 17-21 streak any time of the day. So it's been pretty awesome lately. Saw a couple sweeps in there, so it's been pretty exciting.
It's been very exciting for Minnesota as they look to get back to that top spot in the AL Central, where they resided pretty much the entirety of last season. Let's talk about you and your position here with Sioux Falls. What do you do specifically day to day, and what are a couple storylines out of your department that you'd like to address today?
Yep, I'm currently the quality assurance supervisor, so I just make sure that our people are doing the right things and following the protocols that we have set in place. I was on the floor for 8 years of my career, so definitely know what our dispatchers go through. We're answering 911 calls and non-emergency calls for the entire city limits of Sioux Falls and all of Minnehaha counties. So we support about 250,000 people and handle over 340,000 calls a year. So we're definitely staying busy in there. And we're up at the new PSC as well. So we've got new digs. It's kind of like going from the Flintstones to the Jetsons from where we were at. So we're pretty excited about where we're at for sure.
And I know people out there are very appreciative of everything you do. And again, you don't really think about 911 response until you need it. And then when you do dial that number, whether it's emergency or not, you're in an accident, you see some suspicious activity or whatever it might be, you're always very thankful when you finally get the people on the phone. They calm you down. They get out. They respond. When it comes to that, obviously, you guys also have a need for new employees as well. So talk to us a little bit about the opportunities available within that realm of things.
Yeah, we're currently hiring for 911 dispatchers. Our next class is going to be in August, and then we have another one in September. I'm going to maybe try to sneak some people in June if we can make it happen. But we're just looking for some dedicated people that really want to serve their community. We are the first to serve, and we really are the first responders. So police and fire and ambulance, they don't go anywhere unless we tell them where to go and when to go. So we're that first line of defense, and it's an exciting profession. You know, those firefighters go through 18 weeks of training, but we've got over 22 weeks of training. So we make sure that our people are definitely prepared before we're putting them on the floor to take those calls.
Very important stuff and a very crucial and important job to public safety and beyond. Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis, one of our two guests here this segment. Let's talk a little bit more about where to find those career opportunities. Is that also siouxfalls.gov, or is there a better place?
Nope, you go to siouxfalls.gov/careers. And click on the Metro Communications link there, and it'll take you right to the application.
All right, so certainly a lot of opportunities out there, whether it be the fire department side, communications side, first responders, everything in between. siouxfalls.gov, the place to find those. Back to the Fire Chief, Matt McAreavey, here on this Wednesday edition of Overtime Grill and Fire Season. I'm a big griller, love to be out there. I know a lot of people fire them up, and they've got all sorts of great meats to try and all sorts of family over. What are a few things safety safety-wise that people need to take in mind on how far to put a grill from the house, where not to grill? I know a lot of people will grill in their garage or underneath the eave of their house if it's raining. Talk to us a little bit about grill safety and then bonfire safety, because you see a lot of fire pits out there these days.
Absolutely. Specific to the grills, we absolutely encourage them, just like a space heater, that need their space to run. So we encourage you at least 18 inches to 2 feet away from any kind of a structure. We have multitude of fires throughout the year that they'll start. Vinyl siding's especially susceptible, and as soon as that starts to melt and drip, it'll start on fire, and then it escalates very quickly. So please give them space and keep them outdoors. Absolutely. The carbon monoxide that comes off them is significant. So make sure that they're being used outdoors and have plenty of ventilation around them and give them some space to operate.
Bonfire-wise, everybody loves to get the kids around. We've got a bonfire, or we got a fire pit out back. You get the marshmallows, the s'mores going. Everybody loves s'mores. I don't know anybody that's never liked one of those. But let's talk about that. When it's good to have a bonfire, when it's bad, you're burning brush, burning leaves, everything. Depending upon wind, and we know our wind here in Sioux Falls, that can be pretty dangerous too.
Yep, by City Sioux Falls, our rules and administration for that, it has to be clean and dried firewood, so we can't burn any kind of debris. You're not supposed to burn leaves and grass clippings. Those put off a tremendous amount of smoke and end up causing a health hazard, which actually ends up in another vein of the public health department. But we help to monitor that. So clean and dried firewood, and then be a responsible, respectful neighbor is what we ask. So obviously, for safety concern, keep it away from any wooden structures. We recommend at least 15 feet away from fences, decks, houses, anything like that. But again, if you notice that it's a windy day out and there's smoke that's going over into your neighbors, be a good neighbor. See if they're affecting anything there. That ends up creating quite a few of our nuisance calls where we'll get called in for this. And it's a legal fire, but it is potentially a health hazard to, your downwind neighbor may have, some form of health concern or breathing issues. So be responsible is what we ask. It's no different than anything else. Be a good neighbor. You don't necessarily have to ask permission, but just see if you're impacting them. Is there a better spot that you could put it in your yard? And
that's all very good consideration. And I got to tell you, too, from a kind of air quality perspective, occasionally we see those low air quality days, and you don't want to be smoking out a neighbor, because there's the thing. Whether it be old people, people with breathing issues or challenges that way, but also young kids are also pretty susceptible to that stuff as well. And I know as a parent of young kids, we're very aware and keenly aware of those low-quality days and also being out and around the fire. This year also comes with pool safety talk. Kids are out of school coming up soon. My son's graduating from preschool today. Congratulations, Patrick. The bike path also, fun recreational activity. What are some important things to keep in mind for the pool and the bike path this summer?
It is. It's awesome to get people outdoors and being active. It's obviously one of the mayor's top initiatives, get people out there. He's got his 100 days, 100-mile challenge. We encourage people to be out on the bike trail, get out there and do some swimming, but do it so that this is a summer that can be memorable. I just saw on the news this morning that drowning deaths are up already in the nation this year. Be responsible. Like if you're in a backyard pool or something like that, always be out there with another individual. Even, as kids are getting older, make sure that they're out there with a buddy. Use personal flotation devices wherever, depending on your skills and ability. But then especially as we're getting out on the bike trail, we promoted that we want people out there, so they increase the utilization with another class of e-bikes. But it doesn't matter what you're, if you're on the street or on the sidewalk and you're on some kind of an electronic device, make sure you're within your capabilities. But then additionally, we certainly encourage helmets, because traumatic brain injuries are a real thing, and it doesn't take much of a fall off of any one of those devices to really impact the rest of your life.
Very well said there. Fire Chief Matt McAreavey, Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis also here with us. Tim, let's talk a little bit more about your position and the positions you guys are looking for within the department. What really makes kind of a characteristic or two of somebody that's really good at your guys' job at being on the phone with people in these emergency situations, non-emergency situations? What are a few traits for people that you're looking for?
It's people who are able to stay calm in those really high amped up situations. People who are dedicated. We are 24/7 operation, so sometimes you're going to have to work some shifts and miss some holidays or some special events with some families. So you have to be dedicated to be willing to work any of the hours that we have. Be able to multitask. We're doing a lot of things at the same time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't realize when they call 911 that there's 8 or 9 people that are working in there. So when we're asking people questions, somebody else is getting that help started already. So we really work well as a team. So teamwork is is extremely important as well.
And that's just a couple of the traits that you're looking for the opportunities out there through the city of Sioux Falls, siouxfalls.gov, the place to go for fire department opportunities as well as communications opportunities with the 911 or the non-emergent helpline. Last time we had you in here, we talked a little bit about that non-emergency line. You just have a question, you got a concern, something that you don't want to rally and get a fire truck pulling up to your house. You don't need one. What's that non-emergency line, the number that people should kind of have bookmarked?
It's 605-367-7000.
367-7000, 605-367-7000, that non-emergency line. Back to the fire chief, Matt McAreavey. Carbon monoxide obviously is a big deal. It comes off of a furnace, comes off a fire pit, grill. We talked about that. But in the house, tell me what's recommended, what's code, and what people should do to be sure they're compliant and monitoring for carbon monoxide in their home.
Absolutely. We encourage people, and we have a program through 211 that you can call into 211, the helpline center, and we'll come out and we'll check. But we provide smoke alarms, and then if your house needs it, we would provide one of those as a combination that provides carbon monoxide. It's absolutely the standard is to have that carbon monoxide protection to make sure that there's a monitor, because it's an odorless and a clear gas that you're not going to be able to detect until it's too late.
And obviously pretty darn scary stuff. And get those carbon monoxide alarms set up through your house. They make them 2-in-1 with the fire alarm and the carbon monoxide alarm. So very important stuff. Lastly, on those with the battery replacement, I don't think you can ever be too careful on that, because sometimes people will freak out if it's beeping at them. But the beep is a good thing. It lets you know, hey, the battery's done, change it. But how often should they be checking to change those things?
It is. They recommend that they get tested monthly. So there's a button on there. You can hit it, make sure that it's still operating there. But the electronics that aren't in them anymore, they will start to alert, like you said, as soon as that battery starts to get low power. So if they're chirping, we absolutely recommend that you either replace the battery or replace the unit. Any detector out there, it should have a manufacturer date on it. If it's older than 10 years old, we recommend that you get that replaced. They have a 10-year service life on them.
Okay, interesting stuff there. Moving forward for both of you guys, you can take this question. Events upcoming, whether it be hydrant parties, hiring events, things going on within the fire department, comms department. What's going on in the next couple months, couple weeks for you that you'd like the public to be aware of?
Yeah, we love getting out there and interacting with the community. So we work with the Parks Department and the Police Department. We have a number of hydrant parties coming up. I encourage you, again, I can't say it enough, track siouxfalls.gov. We've got all the upcoming events on there so that you can go forward and see it. But it's one of those events, especially the hydrant parties, is something that our crews love getting out there, seeing the kids, spraying them down with water. It's one of those that really makes it worth it to serve.
Last but most certainly not least, I've got a long-standing bet with Vikings fans in the 605. If the Vikings beat the Packers, which I don't think will happen this year, I run to work. It's 2.5 miles. It's nothing absolutely crazy. I'm not running in the deep snow, but I'll run if it's cold, whatever, I'll do it. I ran one time last year. I don't envision myself running this year. But when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, your police chief counterpart is a Bears fan. Is there any sort of work, it works for a wager coming up for you guys? You got rookie quarterbacks, you got talented receivers. Is there anything that you want to get out there with the police chief that you'd like to say, hey, I'll buy you guys lunch, or I'll buy your whole department pizza if Minnesota loses at home? What could possibly be dreamt up for a nice little conjunctive bet here between the fire department and the police department? Any ideas?
Yeah, I love your idea there. We're naturally competitive between, we consider it a sibling rivalry, honestly, a lot of times. So it's one of those that we can pick on each other, certainly within public safety, but nobody else had better pick on us. So I like where you're at there with the lunch there. I would take that bet with Toom on our rookie quarterback. So, yep, in JJ we trust.
Okay, in JJ we trust indeed. I'll pick Chief Toom's brain on that on the other side. We'll see if we can get something hammered out in an official proclamation. Maybe you're open the mayor, too, with that as we tee it up. The Vikings and the Bears. They're both not as good as the Packers, by the way. But that's Fire Chief Matt McAreavey, Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis. It's been a blast to have you guys. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having us.
All right. It's been great to chat with them. And again, keep all that in mind, whether it be the bonfire, the grill, again, the distance that's safe away from the house, carbon monoxide. I know that you haven't checked your carbon monoxide or fire alarms, because I haven't either. You got to do that from time to time. And again, they do have a shelf life. So go out, hit up Costco, hit up Walmart, wherever you need to go, and get a refresh in your house and stay safe through the spring and into the summer. That's great stuff. When we come back, it's time to talk some NFL schedule release. The Minnesota Vikings have the opportunity to lose both in the United States and internationally this year. Pretty cool stuff. They'll face off with the New York Jets out at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the London area. We'll tell you when that is, and more tidbits from the National Football League coming up next. And later in hour number 1, recap the NBA. Minnesota Timberwolves are in trouble. Karl Anthony Towns' status and so much more to round out hour number 1. That's coming up next on Overtime.
College hoops and the NFL and Major League Baseball. It's all here on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Back with you. It is the Wednesday edition of Overtime. Special thanks moments ago. Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey made his second ever appearance here on Overtime. Always a great public service time to remind you of the safeties of the season. Of course, the kids are about to get out of school. There's going to be a lot more people running around neighborhoods. Slow down, stay alert, but it's also grilling season. It's also bonfire season, pool season, and an opportunity to get out and hit the greenway. Wear a helmet, stay alert, and of course, use proper equipment and stay within your limitations. If you're out there on some of those speedy electric bikes, electric vehicles that are out on the greenway now, those things are super fast, by the way, and really pretty darn cool. But stay safe out there, wear a helmet, and again, just be alert this time of year. Great reminders from Sioux Falls Fire Chief Matt McAreavey, as well as Metro Communications Supervisor Tim Schleis, who stopped in talking about some of the needs within the departments, upcoming hiring events, and training events. SiouxFalls.gov, the place to go for more information. Now for the latest from the National Football League. I said it tongue-in-cheek as we went to break, but the Minnesota Vikings very well could lose on multiple continents this season. I don't know if they will, but they do have a confirmed road game, or actually technically a home game against the New York Jets. It's a neutral site location, London, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Some of the NFL's newest potential stars and one of the oldest will be showcased in the league's 5 international games next season. 6 of the top 11 picks in the most recent draft and veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers will highlight a schedule that begins Week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and concludes Week 10 in Munich, Germany. 3 games we've played in London this season, beginning with Rodgers and the New York Jets facing off with the Minnesota Vikings and rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy, maybe on October 6th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Rodgers went 17-11-1 against the Vikings when he was the Packers starting quarterback, previously played in London during his final season with the Packers, a disastrous loss to the Giants on October 9th. Rodgers broke his thumb, and the season came unglued from that moment because the Packers refused to get Rodgers on the bench. I'm not still bitter about it. Why would you say that? But anyways, Rodgers back in London. Vikings are the opponent. That's pretty darn cool. Coming up on October the 6th from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. International Series begins on September the 6th with Rodgers' former team, Green Bay Packers, visiting the Philadelphia Eagles, neutral site, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Corinthians Arena. Other international games, Jaguars and Bears, October 13th, just a week after Jets and Vikings. A week after Jags-Bears, you got Patriots and Jags. Jacksonville is the de facto international host team. They're there back-to-back weeks more often than not these days. They'll do that again this year, hosting or playing at the Bears in the first game, hosting the Patriots in the second game, and the final game. And again, somebody said craftily on social media today, it looks like we're still holding Germany accountable for World War II. Giants and Panthers were sending that terrible matchup to Munich November the 10th to round out the international series this season. Again, 5 overseas games, Packers and Eagles from Brazil, Jets, Vikings, Jags, Bears, Patriots, Jags from London, and then in Munich, Germany at Allianz Arena, it's Giants and Panthers on November the 10th. Recently, Netflix roasted Tom Brady, and later this year, it'll be broadcasting football while we're roasting Chestnuts. Netflix had secured the rights to 2 Christmas games to be played on Wednesday, Christmas Day, December 25th. The streamer announced the deal on Wednesday morning. The possibility of first mentioned last Wednesday by Boomer Esiason, John Ourand of Puck, and then reported it was trending that way, but not yet done. Netflix has the 2 games. And for the first time ever, the NFL has carved out a package of games within the confines of existing broadcast contracts and sold them to a company that isn't an existing broadcast partner. We've seen a lot of trailblazing from the National Football League, to put it that way, as far as getting the games on new networks and getting new contracts out there. I love football no matter when it is, and it is on Christmas Day. That's pretty darn cool. But it's on a Wednesday, even shorter week than Thursday Night Football. I hope the NFL really lines this up smartly here, whether or not the teams are going to be coming off Thursday night games or a bye week or heading into a bye. It feels like it's pretty late in the season to have that. But if the NFL is going to continue with this trajectory as we round out the segment, if they're going to continue the trajectory of just kind of taking everything by the reins and saying, you play here when we say so, Wednesday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, overseas, underwater, whatever it might be, the NFL needs to put in another bye week. And I don't mind if they move to 18 regular season games, give every team 2 bye weeks, because there's one way you can tell players you don't care about them. That's the continued expansion of the season and not implementing continued safety rules. They're doing a good job on the safety part, but they continue to expand the season, and they continue to build these schedules where you've got short turnarounds, not enough time for rest, not enough time to be prepared for a football game. That's why Thursday Night Football generally stinks, in all caps and underlined. But if you expand the season one more game, it is the premier opportunity to put in another bye week. Not only is the product going to be better, you'll have healthier players, you'll have happier players, and it'll build excitement moving forward. I think the NFL very wise to consider moving it to 2 bye weeks if they go to an 18-game regular season. And that would provide so many more opportunities for crafty scheduling, international games, midweek games, holiday games, and otherwise. I don't know why they haven't really gotten there just yet, but I do think that's coming in due time. Not only the expansion to 18 games in the regular season, but 2 bye weeks per team makes too much sense to deny moving forward for the NFL. When we come back, it's time to shift gears, talk about the NBA. How concerned are you, or are you completely given up for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Are you done in 6 games? Are you done in 7? Do you still think the T-Pups have an opportunity to win the thing against the Denver Nuggets? Obviously, a win on their home floor, something they couldn't achieve over the weekend, would go a long way. We'll get you the latest on Karl Anthony Towns, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and around the NBA to round out hour number 1. That's coming up next, and before long, opportunity to score big, win big with the identity crisis. That's coming up around 12:20 on this Wednesday edition of Overtime.
The best sporting matchups and coverage. We are ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you to round out hour number 1 on this Wednesday, May 15th edition of Overtime. And, of course, we had all sorts of news, good, bad, or indifferent last night from the Timberwolves contest. Last night, Timberwolves' Karl Anthony Towns did exit with 2:14 to go in the first quarter due to an apparent left knee injury, but did check back in. He appeared to aggravate the left knee that he had surgically repaired in March after Kentavious Caldwell-Pope inadvertently tripped him. And again, latest there, Towns missed less than a minute of game action and should be available to finish the contest. Of course, he did finish the contest. No real updates just yet on Karl Anthony Towns' status moving forward, but certainly a big-time concern for Minnesota, not only when he's in the game and in foul trouble, which we saw early, but when he's not going to be able to be there, not going to be there at full strength, that's only going to put a further damper on the Minnesota Timberwolves' chances for the remainder of that series. Other news from the NBA, let's check in on MSG. Fans at MSG last night saw a shift in their team a little more than halfway through the first quarter when the Knicks began an 18-7 run against the Pacers to close out the period. But guard Miles McBride, whose insertion into New York's starting lineup gave the team a tangible lift, said the boost took place far before that. I think the shift started in the locker room in Indiana. We talked about it. We knew we had to respond. And moving forward, they have responded. The result was a polar opposite in Game 5. The Knicks drilled the Pacers 121-91 to take a 3-2 series lead in the best-of-7 series. They'll travel to Indianapolis with Game 6 on the mind and an opportunity to close out the Pacers and advance to their first Eastern Conference Finals since the year 2000. On Friday night, Jalen Brunson shook off an awful Game 4 showing to again star for New York, notching 44 points and 7 assists. The Knicks are on the way, it looks like, to closing out the series, 6 games, 7 games, or otherwise. That's been a very fun series. They could get it and get it done with the Eastern Conference Finals appearance for the first time in 24 years. Anthony Edwards pulled a baseball cap over his head after the worst night of his young postseason career, a 5-for-5 shooting showing in a 112-97 loss in Game 5 of the Western Conference semis on last night that left Minnesota on the brink of elimination and had one last banter with a member of the Denver Nuggets before making his exit. This time, the Wolves' 22-year-old star was engaging a Nuggets locker room attendant, bringing up a conversation the two had after Game 2 when Minnesota had jumped to a seemingly commanding 2-0 series advantage. Edwards said with a sly smile last night to the attendant, "You jinxed us. I liked our chances," the locker room attendant chirped back. "What do you expect me to say, Ant?" Edwards nodded and delivered a response containing the same confidence with his Wolves down 3-2 that the attendant had when the defending champions were down 0-2 more than a week ago. Edwards replied last night, "See ya Game 7. From the outside, Minnesota might be in a free fall, losing the past 3 games by a combined 50 points and seeing its impenetrable defense from the regular season be picked apart by league MVP Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. But the Wolves say they still have life in them." Chris Finch, the head coach, says it comes down to Game 6 at home, and that's exactly where we want to be. A lot of series left. We got to force it to a Game 7, but most importantly, we've got to regroup, get guys focusing on what we need to do, and they've been good at that all season. So we will be ready. Edwards had averaged over 33 points and 60% shooting through the first 4 games of the series. And last night, Denver flat out just suffocated Anthony Edwards to the tune of a 5-for-15 showing in the Game 5 loss. Again, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to play realist here, and I'm going to play, hey, let's cool the Jets. If I were to tell you Timberwolves fans out there, 5 games are done in the series, it's 3-2, it ain't over yet. Beginning of the series, you'd take that. But again, it's tough to swallow the way things have gone. You were up 2-0. Now you're down 3-2. You look a little disenchanted. You look a little dinged up and inefficient at times as well. The defense has got a lot of different issues right now. We'll see how they respond. They're one of, if not the best defensive team in the NBA, regular season, postseason, or otherwise these days. I like Minnesota still to fight hard here, but like I said in the open, I just feel like Denver is that team, and they probably will get it done in the place that they called home over the weekend in the Twin Cities. Lastly here, as Bronny James leaned back in his chair and surveyed the swarm of media members that had surrounded him yesterday at the NBA Draft Combine, he acknowledged the extra attention that comes being the son of LA Lakers star LeBron James can be, quote-unquote, a lot sometimes. Yet the 19-year-old USC guard reiterated that his goal is to simply play in the NBA, not necessarily on the same team as his father. "I would be happy about getting to the league instead of me thinking about playing with my dad. That's not my mindset, or not at all. I'm just trying to put in the work and see where it takes me from there." It's a good attitude for Bronny James, especially because we're in a very realistic scenario. I feel like a lot of people out there think it's some foregone conclusion that the Lakers will take Bronny James, or that a team like the Cavaliers or a team elsewhere that might be able to lure James out of L.A. would take Bronny as a incentive to, hey, come on over, finish your career with us. Cleveland makes a ton of sense. But I don't think it's all that likely that Bronny and LeBron play next year together, barring, of course, L.A. drafting Bronny James. But it's a great attitude for the young man, the 19-year-old USC product, in saying, hey, I'm just trying to realize the dream, get into the league. We can talk about playing with my dad at a later time. Not at the top of my list, nor should it be right now for Bronny James, who his goals are probably not, hey, I want to play in a game with my dad. I think it's more about I want to be a professional basketball player first and let the chips fall where they may from there. Back to Get It Going, hour number 2. Headlines and highlights next on Overtime.